Hurricane Irma is affecting so many Americans, 5 million without power. It could be weeks before it is restored in Florida, as well as other states near that particular state. Let's go to Miami, where NBC reporter Sarah Rosario joins us right now. And Sarah, clearly people are dealing with the aftermath. It wasn't as bad as expected, but without power in the heat in Florida, not good.
Right, Roland, you got it exactly right. Here in Miami, we saw a lot of flooding at the height of the storm. That has since receded, but what we are seeing is downed trees all across the city, like the ones you see behind me. But the dire need right now is in the Florida Keys, where that storm rolled through the area as a Category 4 hurricane, and it just caused widespread devastation. Recovery expected to take months, if not years, turning that island into what many used to believe was a tropical paradise. Now it looks more like a war zone. Homes ripped off their foundations, roads washed away, complete neighborhoods reduced to rubble. Now the Navy, medical responders flown into that area yesterday. They are hard at work trying to help people in any way possible, providing much needed supplies. The USS Abraham Lincoln, a warship now on a mission of mercy, able to provide 100,000 gallons of water to people in the Keys per day. This as search and rescue teams continue to go through the area to try to find people unaccounted for, also looking for anybody who just may be stranded. The effects of Irma are being felt all across the Southeast even still. From the Carolinas, where they have flooding in the streets, to Jacksonville, Florida, where historic flooding there is expected to last up until possibly even next week. There is some good news here. Florida Power and Light, the largest utility provider here in Florida, says we could have our lights turned back on by this weekend. And for the west coast of Florida, it could be within the next 10 days. So some good news there, Roland. Live in Miami, Sarah Rosario, back to you. All
right, Sarah, we appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Again, folks, we're still seeing the aftermath. Not only what's happening in the United States, the mainland, but also what's happening, of course, in the U.S. Virgin Islands, as well as other Caribbean nations as well. People are impacted in a negative way, but the British Virgin Islands destroyed even more so than the U.S. Virgin Islands. Some 100,000 Americans stranded in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The question is, what will this country do to assist them? Our panel, Spencer Overton, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, Angela Saylor, deputy to the chairman for the Gloucester Institute, Dr. Greg Carr, chair of the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University. Spencer, when these things happen, we only think in terms of just the mainland, but when you look at Puerto Rico, when you look at U.S. Virgin Islands, those are territories. Those are American citizens.
Those are Americans, right? And we don't want to forget about them. So much has been focused on Florida, obviously very important in other states here. And they talk about, you know, a certain number of deaths on the mainland. Hey, there are Americans who died in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah. Absolutely. You know, it's interesting. There was an op-ed in today's New York Times making that very point. Sister from the Virgin Islands, and have a lot of students who are not only from the U.S. Virgin Islands. Yesterday, I talked to a young man whose people are from St. Martin, and they lost 95% of their housing stock. And so he was concerned. All his family's coming to D.C. to stay with him for the indeterminate future. Not to mention, Roland, interestingly enough, in your hometown in Houston, man, they tested around the Clayton homes the other day, the New York Times, because the EPA wouldn't give them any information. Those folks have 135 times the acceptable amount of E. coli, and Texas A&M is putting a team together because they found mercury beads in the water. So, I mean, as we're dealing with the Caribbean, as we're dealing with Florida, does not forget that the aftermath of these storms is what really, now we're really going to have to face.
And Angela, I mean, again, environmental disasters, we talk about natural disasters, but then you have this that, again, very much affects people in a negative way. Now you're talking about sickness and illness.
Yes, absolutely. And when we look at, you know, what's going to be happening on the Hill with an infrastructure package, I mean, now with all this devastation, infrastructure is absolutely needed. And I am just, my heart just really goes out to all the Americans who have really been coming together over this disaster and praying and doing what they can to help, and looking at how government and just private citizens are working to make sure that all of them, that our American brothers and sisters are going to make it through this disaster.
Weekdays on TV One.
I will never lie to you.
Oh my God.
Roland Martin.
He doesn't want to talk to us. He wants to ignore us.
Uncensored.
Hell no. That ain't gonna cut it, boo.
Unapologetic.
No, that is fundamentally false. You are wrong. He
Unfiltered.
wants an America where we all look alike. He ain't talking about black people.
Unrelenting.
You better go work out, because you got a fight on your hands.
NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Weekdays at 7 a.m. on TV 1.